Let me give you one single number. 47.78. 40 years. That is how long the women's 400-meter world record has been standing. 40 years without a single clean athlete on the entire planet getting close to it. Not one. And then on a September evening in Tokyo in 2025, a 26-year-old from New Jersey did something that sports scientists have quietly been calling the most dominant clean sprint performance in the history of track and field. Sydney McLaughlin crossed the finish line in 47.78 seconds. The crowd lost their minds. The athletics world lost their minds. And 4 months later, Sydney announced she was pregnant. So here's the question that nobody is answering with actual science. Can the human body return to the absolute frontier of its physiological limits after pregnancy? And what if I told you that the biology of pregnancy might not just allow it? It might actually make her faster? My name is Sebastian. I am a physical therapist and performance analyst. And this is the Injury Breakdown. Stay with me, because this story goes places that will genuinely surprise you. Before we talk about what pregnancy does to a body, you need to understand exactly what kind of machine we are working with. Sydney McLaughlin is not just a fast runner. She is something the sport of athletics has genuinely never seen before. She runs the 100 meters in 11.07 seconds, the 200 in 22.07. She holds the world record in the 400-meter hurdles at 50.37, a race that forces you to clear 10 barriers while running a near-maximal sprint around a full track. And then she went and ran the flat 400 meters in 47.78. Now here is why that last number matters so much. The women's 400-meter world record, 47.60, has been standing since 1985. It belongs to East German athlete Marita Koch. It has never been broken, not once, in 40 years. And here is where the history gets dark. East Germany ran a state-sponsored doping program called State Plan 1425. Documents uncovered decades later showed that young female athletes, some of them teenagers, were systematically given an anabolic steroid called oral turinabol for years. Some did not even know what they were taking. Koch's record is the last one standing from that era. Sydney's 47.78 is only 0.18 seconds slower. That is the width of a single blink. And she did it clean, in the most tested era of athletics that has ever existed, which is exactly why the scientific community considers it the fastest legitimate 400 meters a woman has ever run on this planet. And now her body is growing a human being. Let's start with the cardiovascular system, because this is where the story gets genuinely fascinating. During pregnancy, the human body performs what is essentially a 9-month endurance training block without you asking for one. Blood volume increases by somewhere between 30 and 50%. The heart stroke volume rises. Cardiac output climbs dramatically to sustain the fetus. Your body builds a bigger engine, automatically. Physiologists have actually started calling pregnancy an involuntary altitude training camp. The cardiovascular adaptations are eerily similar to what happens when endurance athletes spend weeks at high elevation. Your body learns to deliver oxygen more efficiently. And if you maintain training during and after pregnancy, those adaptations do not simply disappear. But pregnancy does not only upgrade your engine, it also temporarily destabilizes your entire mechanical structure. There is a hormone called relaxin. It peaks in the first trimester and stays elevated throughout the pregnancy. Its job is to loosen the ligaments and connective tissues to prepare the body for birth. The problem is, it does not ask your ankles, your knees, or your hips for permission. Every joint becomes more lax, less stable. For a 400-meter hurdler who takes off from the same leg 10 times per race at near maximum speed, that is a serious problem. And then there is the bone issue. During late pregnancy and breastfeeding, the body transfers calcium to the fetus and then to the infant. Bone mineral density can drop by 5 to 10%. For a sprinter returning to training, that window, where the cardiovascular system feels ready, but the skeleton has not caught up, is the single most dangerous period in the entire comeback. Norwegian cross-country skiing legend Marit Bjørgen learned that the hard way. She returned too aggressively after childbirth. Her bone density dropped to 89% of baseline. She suffered 2 sacral stress fractures in the first 5 months postpartum, precisely because she felt strong, but her bones were not ready for the load. So we have a body with an upgraded engine, looser joints, and temporarily fragile bones, trying to return to the highest sprint velocity a clean human has ever sustained. That sounds impossible. But wait, because what comes next is the reason I made this video. What if pregnancy is not the end of peak performance? What if, for some athletes, it is the beginning? Researchers who studied 150 of the fastest female marathoners in history found something remarkable. 37 of those women had given birth during their careers. And of those 37, 70% ran their lifetime personal best after having a child. Not before, after. And among those 150 fastest women ever, roughly 25% are mothers who gave birth while actively competing. A postpartum case study published in 2024 followed an elite endurance athlete who began sprint interval training just 5 weeks after giving birth. Her peak cardiac output remained measurably higher than her pre-pregnancy baseline for weeks afterward. Her oxygen uptake at peak exercise returned to and slightly surpassed its previous ceiling. The pregnancy had literally upgraded her cardiovascular ceiling, and targeted training locked in those gains. And then there is the case that makes all of this concrete. Faith Kipyegon, Kenyan middle distance runner, Olympic champion. She had a daughter in June 2018. She came back, won silver at the 2019 World Championships, then gold at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021 with a new Olympic record. And then, in the summer of 2023, in the span of 50 days, she broke the world record in the 1,500 meters, the mile, and the 5,000 meters. 3 world records, 50 days. After being a mother for 5 years. She ran 3 minutes 49.11 in the 1,500, becoming the first woman in history under 3 minutes 50. And Kipyegon is not alone. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce recovered from a cesarean section and became the first mother to win the 100-meter world title at 32 years old. Paula Radcliffe won the New York City Marathon 10 months after giving birth. Jessica Ennis-Hill won heptathlon gold at the World Championships in Beijing just 13 months postpartum. The pattern is too consistent to ignore. Pregnancy does not end elite athletic careers. For many women, it reshapes them. Now let me walk you through what the return actually looks like for an athlete at Sydney's level, because getting the timing wrong is how careers end. In the first 6 weeks, even elite athletes do almost nothing high impact. The body is in tissue repair mode. Not sprinting, not jumping, not even running. From 6 to 12 weeks, low-impact cardio begins, cycling, pool work, gradual strength rebuilding. From 12 to 20 weeks, we enter what I call the danger window. The cardiovascular system feels almost normal, but the skeleton and tendons have not caught up. Bone density is still suppressed, especially if the athlete is breastfeeding. Ligamentous stability is still rebuilding. The athlete feels capable of more than their tissues can safely deliver. This is the phase where Bjørgen broke her sacrum. Twice. Here is also where a hidden variable enters the equation that almost nobody in professional sprinting discusses publicly. The deep stabilizing system of the trunk, the same system that transfers force from the ground through the hips on every hurdle takeoff, needs specific rehabilitation before any return to maximum speed. Skip it, and you are running on a structure that looks complete from the outside but has a crack in the foundation. Only from 6 to 12 months postpartum does true sprint-specific work begin, and for Sydney, the hurdles come back last, once every layer underneath is verified solid. Sydney announced her pregnancy in January 2026. The Los Angeles Olympics open in July 2028. 30 months. The scientific literature places peak aerobic and special endurance capacity at 12 to 24 months postpartum. The timeline fits. And her coach is Bob Kersey, the same man who guided Allison Felix through an emergency cesarean, through a public fight for maternity protections, and back to the global podium in the 400 meters. Kersey does not rush. The architecture of this comeback was designed before Sydney even made the announcement. So, can Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone return to 47.78 after pregnancy? The cardiovascular science says yes. The postpartum performance data says yes. The precedent of Kipyegon, Radcliffe, Ennis Hill, and Fraser Price says yes. The timeline says yes. The physiology, across every dimension we can measure, says this is not just possible. It is probable if the return is managed correctly. But here is the one variable no study has ever quantified. Sydney went into pregnancy as arguably the fastest clean female sprinter in the history of the sport. Reproducing 47.78 is not just a biological question. It is a question about whether a human being can reassemble the rarest possible convergence of conditions after their entire life has fundamentally changed. The data says it is possible. But sports history is also full of athletes who came back healthy and strong and never quite reproduced that one unrepeatable peak. Can Sydney? I believe she can. And competing at a home Olympics in Los Angeles in 2028, in a stadium she has been thinking about for years, that is the kind of context that unlocks things no laboratory data can predict. 47.60. Marita Koch, 1985, 40 years. Los Angeles, 2028, Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. A postpartum body that the science says will be stronger, not weaker. I would not bet against her. If this breakdown changed how you see the potential of the human body, please share this video with the athlete mothers in your life. For too long, the narrative has treated pregnancy as a physiological ceiling, but as we've seen, the science and the data from 70% of elite marathoners suggests it can actually be a new beginning. I'm Sebastian, a physical therapist and performance analyst from the Injury Breakdown. If you're fascinated by how the body adapts to extreme physical challenges, you need to watch our other video, The Hidden Injury That May Have Made Keely Hodgkinson Unbeatable. In that breakdown, we look at how a childhood health crisis may have rewired her engine in a way that makes her nearly impossible to catch on the track. Subscribe, drop a comment below telling me if you think Sydney breaks Koch's record in Los Angeles, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.